Welcome to the Deeper Into Movies podcast. My name is Stephen T. Hanley. I'm the founder and lead curator of Deeper Into Movies. We are a pop-up cinema based in London and New York. Today on the podcast, I am joined by Youth Lagoon, aka Trevor Powers. Youth Lagoon has been Trevor's musical project for many years. It's a deeply personal project with a kind of lo-fi intimacy and kind of dream pop grandeur, I'm going to say. Trevor and I met via his label Fat Possum when I was approached to work with Trevor to program some movies to promote his new album, Rarely Do I Dream. And when I'm ever approached by things like this, my first thought is, do they have good taste? Is this going to be right for us? And the second I spoke to Trevor, well, we share the same favorite movie, Paris, Texas, Tick. We both love the ambient drone post-rock band La Bradford, Tick. Nobody loves La Bradford. Nobody's heard of La Bradford. I was so excited. And we just have so much in common. And we're programming Drugstore Cowboy in London later this month. And we just hit it off. I had no notes going into the podcast, so this is one of those informal, free-flowing conversations. And we get into everything: music, movies, books, creativity. So here is me and Youth Lagoon.
Yo,
Hey,
Steven, what's up, buddy?
we did it.
We
Okay,
did
phew.
it. I love
Yeah,
that Gummo poster is fantastic.
that was I had these kind of media bros, investors trying to circle me for a while, and this is the only good thing I got out of the deal. I didn't go with them, but they tried to court me with a vintage VHS Gummo poster, which I did accept. I always say to trust the gut. If you get some weird spidey sense,
A lot of people don't listen to that spidey sense. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking that the spidey sense is more of a, maybe it's overactive, like, oh, no, like this person's cool, they mean well. But there is that, the gut feeling for a reason, and it's the truest feeling, even down to creativity. Like when I'm writing a song, the best ideas are always coming from that place of I'm completely out of my own way, and it's guided by instinct. And when that instinct is telling me to take a left turn, if I don't take a left turn, then something in that idea is going to collapse.
yeah, what comes first with you? Music or lyrics, or a melody, or I find I'm so unmusically talented. It's incredible. So I'm always so curious as to how
it
you
de-
begin to
it de-
craft a song.
it depends. There's I used to only start with music and then build lyrics after the fact. So I would sing gibberish and it's a pretty common thing with songwriters, where you're trying to find the melody, you're trying to find the idea. And so you're throwing gibberish at the wall, and then sometimes some of the gibberish comes out in a way that there's some tangible emotion to it, like you didn't mean to say this phrase, but the phrase just came out, and
Hmm.
there's a truth in the phrase, but you don't know why it feels true. So that kind of stuff, that comes back to the subconscious mind and comes back to instinct, because I try to not question that too. Like, if gibberish comes out and there's something there that feels inherently true, then I keep that line. And then some of it's just gibberish, that I have to completely discard. But yeah, other times it starts with poetry, where I'll be writing poetry or working on um at the end of the day I just love words, and so
Mm-hmm.
words will pop into my brain, or strings of words, and I write them down, and sometimes songs will start with that, but more often than not it starts with music. The music is the guiding force, and then I build out from there.
How do you know when a song is done?
That also goes back to the instinct thing. It's like a song just tells you to shut the fuck up,
Yeah.
and then you have to stop, because that took me a long time to learn, where I would tinker and then over tinker, and I wouldn't know when to stop an idea. So you could have an idea that reached its peak effectiveness, and the idea was very clear and concise, but then if you overwork it, then it starts taking the song a completely different direction. Sometimes I can go on for years, where I could have a song that could be it could be simmering for 5 or 6 years and take me 6 years to finish the song, not consecutively, but I'll work on it a little bit, set it aside, work on it, set it aside, and the whole time I don't realize I'm overworking the idea. And after 6 years, what might end up cracking the code is me going back to the original demo and be like, oh damn, I had it figured out the first time. I just wasted this
Mm-hmm.
many years. But sometimes it takes that in order to figure out what that creature wants to be.
I was listening to Will Oldham on Mark Maron's podcast, and he was saying that he went and recorded in Nashville,
Uh-huh.
and those guys have a kind of rule in the studios: if we need more than 3 takes, we're in trouble, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And it's
Yeah.
just like very, very, very well. Well, they're all just like goat players in that town who are just in and out on gigs every day. So I feel they're just always just born ready for whatever session comes their way, whatever song, that they kind of never out practice, so to speak. So, and
Yeah.
he was saying, yeah, 3 or 4 takes and that's it. Anything more where something's wrong.
Yeah,
But
that's
I really like that approach now. I was cutting a trailer for my VHS night the other day, and old me would have fucked around with it for a month, probably until the week before the event. And I was like, this is a trailer being dumped on socials. This deserves an evening of your time max.
uh-huh.
And then just cut it together, put some cool clips on, put the music under, and move on. Get out of the way. Don't, because before I was just such a tinkerer and going back and looking at the cuts and stuff. And then it's like, dude, this is a Instagram trailer. This isn't that deep
Yeah.
at all. I'm not going to Cannes with this trailer. I just need to. But now, as the older I get, and I kind of obviously, time is the most valuable commodity. I'm just so less anal and stressed about things that I put out. Kind of the same with the
Yeah.
pods. My podcast producer, when we first started, I was like kind of neurotic that I think I pronounced this word wrong. So I'm going to record some overdubs for you of me saying whatever big word it was. And then, like, can you cut that back in? And he's like, dude, it's fine. Like, no one gives a shit.
Well, and that's where all the best stuff is too. It's in the flubs. It's like with music, it's always the things that I'm not trying to do, some accident or some wrong note, or I have whatever my goal is. Um, it's never that. It always ends up being boring when compared to the accident. So it's the fuck up that has the most life always. Same with conversations too. Like someone there's such a vulnerability that comes with, say you're trying to say something and it comes out the wrong way, or you say one word that you think means something that actually means something else. There's such a openness that comes with that element of fucking up, because that is at the core, that is humanity.
It is, and there's not a Deep Into Movies podcast message board saying that, wow, did you hear that flub at 13 minutes 22, you know,
Yeah.
where he mispronounced Fellini or something. It's like, it's not that
Fellini.
deep. It's kind of like, I think David Foster Wallace said, if you knew how little people thought about you in their day to day, you'd be so much freer. And
Yeah.
I kind of took a step back, and kind of like that. Harry Dean Stanton had that poster on his wall that it was like just a galaxy and the speck that says "You are here."
Oh wow, that's the best.
It's kind of like, in the podcast universe, is your mispronunciation or whatever. It's not that fucking deep, so get over it.
Yeah.
It's good.
And
It's
also
liberating.
also ends up being when it comes to work, the work ends up being generally better when you do act relatively quick. Not that every idea has to be quick, but kind of like what you said um about the Nashville session
Yeah,
musicians, there is so much truth to that, where if something there's something's wrong at its core if you can't go in pretty quick and knock an idea out.
yeah. Brian Eno used to always talk about. I think he was a drummer from Free that he was really obsessed with, because he was kind of, his beats were always a little under or a little over, but the rhythm was pretty tight. But he was never the most metronomic drummer, so to speak. So he always liked that kind of loose rhythm he had. And then I think he'd always go for the imperfections in the takes.
Yeah.
There's something more connecting about it.
It's always better. And it's always so much more emotional because you're not hiding behind anything.
No, well, there's a part of me, I like those Steely Dan bros who are just like, everything was just airtight as well. There's kind of on the flip side, I do like those super precise anal
Yeah.
kind of records as well, which are just like perfection.
Yeah,
But
totally.
it's kind
But
of going to go one of two ways.
I think even that though is still based on the best stuff is based on instinct. Because it doesn't mean that everything has to be quick. But I do think that even if you're like back to what I said, how some of my songs have taken years and years to
Yeah.
really come into fruition. And sometimes I am going back to the early demo, but other times that idea really does take years in order to figure out and crack the code on what it's supposed to be. So it just comes down to every person so different, every idea is so different, and there's no golden rule with how to treat all this shit.
How does it work for you, being, because I was like, you're not the most prolific musician, which I like, that feels every album is very considered, and it's coming from a personal place, and it just seems like when it's ready, it's ready.
Hmm.
How does that, how is that for you? Would you want to be more a bigger body of work, or does it just comes when it comes and you can't rush it?
To me, the only thing I care about is the ideas and the albums, because I do think in terms of like when it's one thing to write a song, but it's a whole other ballgame when you're thinking about how certain songs connect onto one piece of music and having it have this real having an album feel like it has an actual identity to it, and there's a portal, some doorway that you can step into, and it's like, okay, this album feels like you are visiting this specific island, and then that's it. And so it's all about being in tune with knowing when that island is done being created.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those islands take a really long time, and to me, I just care about everything being as effective and true as it needs to be. So whether that takes a year or whether that takes 6 years, it has to be everything has to be right, you know. And I started Youth Lagoon in 2011, and I had The Year of Hibernation was my debut record, and that one came from this place of pure desperation, because I had worked on music my whole life up until that point, but when that had come out, I was early 20s, and I was going through, so I had so much anxiety, I had so much depression. My future felt like this giant black hole. I was going to college at the time, but only because I didn't know what else to do with my life. I was like, if nothing happens with music, then I have no idea what the fuck I'm supposed to do. So I had changed. I was one of those people in college that I changed my major like 4 times, just because everything felt so bleak, and I just yeah, I was very lost. And then so with that album, there was something about that desperation that fueled the everything that the identity of the album had to be. It was like an embodiment of my anxiety, was that record. And when that came out, and that opened up all these doors to start touring, and gave me so many resources in terms of um, co-producers I could work with, and I got signed to record label Fat Possum, which I'm still on today, as you know. I've been on Fat Possum for almost 15 years. And my whole process through the years has changed. So every single time, like, it started off as desperation, and trying to get the devil off my back because I was so anxious. And that anxiety and depression and spiral fueled my creativity for the first 3 Youth Lagoon albums. And then what had happened was the fuel, or um what furthered my songwriting, and that emotional ammunition started changing shape, because I had all these health issues go on. My body was falling apart. Um, that which made the depression at an all-time high, became suicidal. I had all this total and complete mental collapse. But in that, I started learning how to meditate, and finding the frequency of inner peace. And when I found that, it's kind of like what Lynch talked about his whole career, which at the time, when I would watch interviews of Lynch talking about meditation, it sounded amazing, but it didn't mean anything to me because I had never experienced anything like that. And Lynch's whole thing was, he was like, you don't have to live in some you don't have to live in darkness and be plagued with demons in order to make things that, say you're inspired by art that's really fucked up, and you want to make something that's more in that underbelly realm. Like, you don't have to live in that underbelly to access it. And my whole life I had believed that, so I had almost postponed dealing with anxiety for so many years, because I thought that I had to be in that state of chaos in order to access some of those wavelengths. But weirdly, the healthier that I got as a person through the years, the more it sped up my creative process, because it made it this outlet where there wasn't fear attached to it. There was only excitement of being like, I had no fear of getting lost in those dark playgrounds, because a lot of my songwriting and themes deal with a lot, deals with a lot of heavy and raw themes, but done in this packaging where it's kind of like a magic trick. It feels warm and inviting, but there's a lot more to it. But yeah, when I learned how to meditate, that completely not only sped up my process, but changed my relationship to creativity as a whole.
Wow. I've got so many questions. Firstly, when you were in college, what were your plan Bs when your music career wasn't looking like it was going to happen? What were your alternative careers and lives for Trevor?
Oh, that's kind of the golden question, because it was this thing where one day I would want to become an elementary school teacher, and then the other day I was like, I'm going to become an author. But then, even being an author, that seemed just as unattainable as being a musician. So then I would change my mind again. When I was a kid, I played a lot of baseball, and that I've always had these huge dreams of, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to become a Major League Baseball player. And so a lot of those things that I wanted to do seemed to the general public unattainable.
Mm-hmm.
But to my mom was always the one that was like, if someone else is doing whatever occupation or passion in life that you're seeing someone else in life pursue and attain, you can attain that too, because there's no difference between, she's like, there's no difference between you and that person that's an actor or whatever. So
Love
luckily
that.
I had my mom always in my corner. My dad was way more of the, there was a lot of friction there, especially when I was a teenager, because I had kind of like what you were talking about at family get-togethers. There was always that pressure of, when are you going to grow up? When are you going to find a job that's actually going to pay
Yeah,
money and all?
exact
So
same situation.
yeah, I didn't want to work a job I hated. I didn't even The idea of a job I didn't even want, because a job, there's something about that word job that's so different than the word work. Because I
Yeah.
love work. I'll fucking work all day long when it's something I really want to throw my life into.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work hours and hours and hours a day. But a job, that word job just tends to have so many connotations to it that is soul sucking, and it's way more of a, yeah, it's just a completely different entity.
So what was like your first counterculture weirdo shit that you discovered?
The
Or even, and
first
how?
Well, the first weirdo shit was
What was
actually,
the gateway,
it
even?
was pretty early on. So when I was 12, I with and this goes hand in hand with me being homeschooled. I was homeschooled because my family was incredibly religious, and it was that idea of, whatever we were being taught, my mom wanted to be in control of
Mm-hmm.
what that was. So every day we had, read the Bible. We listened to a lot of Christian music. Like I said, things like Little House on the Prairie, Andy Griffith. But to us, all of that stuff was current. Like, I didn't know that Andy Griffith was an old show. Like, I thought that was, it wasn't, that didn't even factor into my mind. It was just that's just what we watched. It was current. But my dad had The Omen on
Oh,
VHS,
shit.
and he wanted us to watch it when we turned 12, because it was a scared straight mentality, where he's like,
Right.
he wanted us to be scared of Satan. So
Yeah.
he
He
had
that
this,
heavy shit.
yeah. So he had The Omen in his closet for when we turned 12, me and all my
Oh,
brothers.
fuck.
12 was
That's
the age that we could sit down and watch The Omen. And I remember I would grab this chair and climb up and grab the VHS and just look at the VHS, and it looked, I mean, it was this thing. It was like an artifact from another dimension, because for a kid that only watched shows like Leave It to Beaver and I Dream of Jeannie and all of that, um it was that this thing wasn't even a part of my reality. So when I turned 12 and I saw The Omen for the first time, it had the exact opposite effect of what my dad wanted, where it just opened up this entire gateway
yeah.
of, like, how do
I'd be
I
like that Damien motherfucker right.
yeah, how do I have more
Yeah,
of this
yeah.
in my
How do I
life?
get nannies jumping off ledges, killing themselves for me at my birthday party?
Yeah. So
Jesus Christ.
I love how it was like the heaviest shit in the world. And going from, like I said, my world being so sheltered, and having that penetrate that world was just, I mean, it changed everything. That changed everything.
Great movie. Great movie.
Such a good movie.
Such a good movie. I bought all the follow-on books from the Omen because the I think there's going to be like they had 6 in total mapped out. So in that
Oh,
movie tie-in era where they'd give you like the screenplay of a treatment.
uh-huh.
So the guy who's writing all the like novelization tie-ins, he went off and did 4, 5, and 6, which were really great.
The books?
Yeah,
Oh,
but it was like
wow.
Damien's son carrying on the evil and
I
stuff.
had no idea that those existed. I gotta read that. What are they
Yeah,
called?
one sec. Right. So we got Armageddon 2000
Oh my
and
God.
yeah. Oh, so no, just 2 more. Yeah, 4 and 5.
Wow.
Uh,
I gotta read those.
yeah, you'll probably find I bought a job lot on eBay for like £20.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there was something I was thinking that when we were talking about our mutual love of Le Bradford and stuff, that
Uh-huh.
I'm finding myself in this for the last like 10 years. I'm pretty much rebuying or mining everything I was into in my teens and 20s in some
Uh-huh.
weird nostalgia rock. Because I found this photo of me in college, and I had because I recently also bought a giant um, CRT TV so I can watch VHS properly.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I showed this photo to my girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm basically rebuilding my fucking 20 something bedroom from 2001 without even trying to. And I don't know if it's not like regression. I'm happy with where I am now, but this crazy nostalgia and wanting back all the things I had as a teenager or I stupidly sold. Like when
Yeah.
I was so fucking broke one summer, and when Music Magpie came out, where you can scan all your CDs and pull them in a box, send them off, and they'll just pay a load of money into your bank once they receive them. I
Uh-huh.
just gutted like 60 or 70% of my CD collection.
Uh,
And I'm always looking back like I gave away such goated shit.
damn. And
And
CDs, there is something so great about CDs
it's
that
my favorite
you're,
format. My
yeah,
absolute favorite format.
yeah, mine too. I love CDs. My wife and I have been going through and read because I did the same thing when I was younger, and I started getting rid of CDs, and so now going back and getting not only the CDs I used to have, but then adding to the collection and stuff. It's the
Yeah.
best. So great. And now's the best time to get CDs because you can get them for so fucking cheap.
Well, I'm finding with all like the cranky record stuff that some of it is like I get so pissed off when I go back and I'm like, this fucking Windy and Carl album's £40 now? What the fuck? And like I had
Is
it
it?
before. And yeah, there's some weird there was a couple I really like this death metal band Mortician, and
Uh-huh.
they've got all these really cool horror movie samples between every song, and they call themselves the heaviest band in New York.
Uh-huh. That's
And I'm
so cool.
obsessed. And the singer guitarist Will Raymer on every. I'll send you some screenshots after every album photo of him on the inlay is him holding a different weapon.
Whoa.
It's a shotgun. It's a knife. It's a leather waistcoat and a shotgun, an axe, a knife, a big knife, a small knife. It's so
No
fucking funny.
way.
But they're all like 30 or
Wow.
40 pounds, and there's reissues from their own label, but they're the digipacks. And I want the old
Uh,
school jewel case with the big inlay and
yeah. I
stuff.
mean,
And
that's the thing with there's some new CDs that are really expensive. But if you find used ones like you can get old Drudy column and all that kind of stuff. I can find it at my local record shop sometimes for 50 cents.
yeah, most of it's okay. I was buying all the Wu-Tang solo records that I used to really enjoy, and they're all about
Uh-huh.
£3 or £4, which is fun. But I want to find them I have a kind of a rule. I have to find things organically.
Uh-huh.
Ideally, I don't want to go out. It's more fun of the I pick them up when I see them kind of thing more than it is. just adding them all to my cart and them arriving at my house next week or something. I kind of want to find everything organically in the wild.
See, but you're spoiled living in London. That's so different than Idaho. Because if I'm looking for a drugstore cowboy on cassette or something
Yeah.
like the soundtrack, then I don't really have that luxury. It's so different.
Yeah, if I'm really impatient, I'll eBay it. But otherwise, if it's non-urgent, I'll just keep sifting until I find a gem.
Do you have certain shops that are your go-to? So if you're trying to, and do you ever go in with something specific in mind? Like, oh, I want to find this
Yes, absolutely.
CD or
Every
this
time.
movie.
There's a place in Notting Hill in London, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, which is me and my girlfriend will go get. There's a place called Sundays in Brooklyn, which was in Brooklyn, but now it's in Notting Hill as well, where it's have really good pancakes and brunch. So I'll start there. We'll walk up. There's a vintage book. There's this one guy who owns all these vintage stores, and there's a vintage bookstore. There's a vintage clothing store. Then there's a record and DVD store. And so I'll go to all of those, and it's all basically like if you've seen the movie High Fidelity, it's like
Yes,
it's just like imagine that for a closed store of books. They're all just really strange music geeks and snobs or punk kids
that's
working there, and it's the best. And everyone who goes there to trade in stuff is a real, music or movie head or whatever. So it's always amazing shit. You never
that's
know what
incredible.
you never know what you're gonna discover, or some days the magic will be like I'm going and looking for this one CD and I'll find it, or you'll just find something else completely. Like
Yeah,
you'll just find all like the Dinosaur Junior CDs that have been like dumped in and they're all like £4 each or something. And you're like, it's kind of exciting because you kind of feel this is from one collector probably,
uh-huh.
and there'll be a whole bunch of other like cool sub pop shit and stuff, and then but that's the
That
best.
that's the my favorite feeling is not going into like going into an antique mall and then not really having any idea what I'm gonna find. Because that's one thing here, not necessarily with pop culture, like, CDs and movies and stuff, but things like furniture or all
Yeah,
that. That's one thing that I can do in Idaho is stumble into some of that. But like I said, it's very few and far between here, unless it's at the local record shop where like I said, there is more of a curation. Like you could go in and find Cocteau Twins, or you could go in
yeah.
and find like, more high caliber art. Some of that stuff is much harder in Idaho at thrift stores and whatnot.
But I
Not
love
not too
when
much not too much of that laying around. Do you have a favorite filmmaker?
filmmaker. Wow, it sounds so basic, but probably Scorsese's. He's so obvious, but Scorsese's made so many bangers that I find him so entertaining. I
Yeah.
love Richard Linklater's career. I think that's really great. It's again super basic, but I was rewatching a bunch of Tarantino movies recently, and I'm
Uh,
like, he's so entertaining. I find him so entertaining. I think his,
he's so great. And also there's so many
but it's
people now
almost like
that
I don't know why I was so hesitant in blurting that out. I think I guess some people think he's kind of like a bro filmmaker or a kind of an entry level guy, but it's kind of like
he's fucking amazing.
it's kind of great. It's the same way when someone's asking what my favorite Nirvana record was the other day. I was like, I'm gonna say it with my chest. Never mind. I mean, and Euro's dark as fuck, and I like some of it, but track for track, I think Nevermind's fucking great.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way I really enjoy McDonald's food sometimes. The Big Mac,
Yeah.
the slaps will be in the Big Mac. So
But also Tarantino, there's something happening now, and you see this a lot where in culture or on Twitter, it becomes a popular thing for someone to get a lot of hate, and then if you actually sit down, and because I've seen all people try to talk shit on Tarantino, but then anytime I sit down to watch a Tarantino movie, I cannot stop. Like
exactly.
it's like flawless,
No, because people are like,
beginning
oh,
to
he's
end.
he's a motor mouth, he's this, and he's like, I don't think unless you're completely psychotically driven and a little bit autistic, you couldn't make the type of movies that are so laser focused and particular as him. Kind of the
Yeah.
same way with a lot of great musicians or whatever, that other parts of your life have been underdeveloped or pushed on the back burner for you to excel in this
Yeah.
one kind of area. Be it
Yeah.
athlete, artist, whatever. You're going to be a little bit odd.
Yeah, everything is so high caliber, and it's the same like with music, for instance, it all comes back to the caliber of the writing. A lot of people try to hide behind production. You see it in music, you see it in films, you see it in a lot of things where um there's not at something at its core isn't functioning, and so they try to
Yeah.
bury it with production or tricks. Um, but with Tarantino, every single thing it starts with the actual substance of the writing.
Yeah, it's so, and I think another thing that I'm always defending Tarantino on is you make Pulp Fiction, redefines filmmaking, redefines film culture, and then you were smart enough to know I'm never going to strike lightning like that again. And
Hmm.
I go make Jackie Brown
Hmm.
about a middle aged black woman struggling to make bills, and she has this little hustle going. And it's like sad, lonely, middle aged people throughout that whole movie. It's really, really melancholic and tender. And everyone's kind of, they're not cool gangsters. They're small time, hoodlums and bums. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, what a great pivot to be like, I'm not gonna be doing the guys in suits and the Royale with cheese and the guns again. I'm gonna make a kind of a rough, lonely, kind of bummer of a movie with that's really tender. I was like, what the balls on this guy? Kind of like
Uh-huh.
Fleetwood Mac going from Rumors to Tusk. I think that's such a great
Uh-huh.
pivot.
Yeah.
Real fucking weird ass cover of a dog biting a leg and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Everything about that album is just really weird to me. I think that's so brilliant.
Yeah. And creative pivots are that's what creates the most longevity too, because you're always not only keeping other people on their toes, but keeping yourself on your toes is the most important thing. Like riding that line between like not feeling too much comfort in what you're doing, always pushing yourself to where it feels like a tightrope walk, and you might fucking fall to your death, or you might make it across and make your greatest work. It's
Yeah,
all it's
like
all about finding that and pushing yourself to that brink.
yeah, without trying too hard, but still kind of pushing it. The same way, like when Miles Davis sacked off, he had the most goated trio of players like Pat Metheny and stuff, and then was just like, right, you guys leave the band. I'm gonna go play trumpet for a wah wah pedal.
Uh,
It's like, bro, what the fuck? But Neil Young does the same thing. Neil Young would sack off Crazy Horse or key players and just be like, it's my journey, and I'm sorry,
yeah,
but I'm doing me. And then
yeah.
go make like fucking trans or something like some
Uh,
weird ass like, or I love 80s Dylan now and stuff.
oh yeah,
When
yeah. Like Oh Mercy.
exactly, and like
Uh-huh.
it um um street legal and things like that, or infidels, that type, kind of when you're out of fashion, you're not quite, kind of trying to be a little bit hip but still trying to do you. And yeah,
Yeah,
I love those kind of car- career slumps or kind of odd eras and stuff, and seeing
yeah. Yeah,
gems and things like
his
that.
work with Daniel Lanois on No Mercy and Time Out of Mind. Some of
Yeah.
my favorite stuff, because Daniel Lanois is coming at things from that more of ethereal perspective and building out the ambience that I don't Dylan never really steered into at all in his whole career up until that point.
Did you ever have Venetian Snares Daniel Lanois collab album?
No, I
Bruh.
haven't.
Bruh.
Whoa.
Okay, that's my recommendation for today.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's kind of as you imagine the kind of aggressive chaos of Venetian snares,
Uh,
but meaning with the ambience and the pedal steel, but it's really beautiful. It's the
Holy
weirdest
shit.
fucking
Okay.
pairing,
Okay.
and
Amazing.
but when it melds, it's a really incredible thing.
What year did it come out?
A couple of years ago, my Paul, who does all my graphic design work, just like we'll often screenshot each other stuff that might not be on each other's radar, and he was like, "This is fucking crazy," and I was like, "Huh? These guys? Like, I'm totally over Venetian snares and just listen to 40 minutes of the most punishing fucking
Yeah.
noise, but this was really something.
Whoa.
Really
All right, I'm
tender and
excited.
strange. Yeah.
That's incredible. But yeah, Lanois the best. I love Lanois.
Yeah. I like all his even like the Lanois U2 era. I really fuck with as well.
Yeah, same.
And another band that you dare not say you like these days, but those guys were super interesting.
Isn't it funny though how there's always that stuff and then a handful of years later it seems to always change. Isn't it that never stays.
Yeah, no,
I
the
remember for
thing
a while it
is,
was like that with Smashing Pumpkins. There was like 10 years ago, no one would talk about Smashing Pumpkins. I remember there was a friend of mine that went off on I made a positive comment about Smashing Pumpkins and he tried to go off on me and I was like it became this whole thing. But now there's so many bands, especially in LA. LA is like the mecca of Smashing Pumpkins copycats.
I top 10 favorite. I'm working. I'm going on my friend's radio show soon, and I thought the simplest way we would do it was I'd go through all my ultimate obsession bands,
Hmm.
and I thought that would be the through line of the show, because otherwise I'm just going to get consumed with scrolling through my phone for a month picking out stuff. But it basically went Nirvana and then Smashing Pumpkins. But my Smashing Pumpkins obsession was so insanely hard. Every
Uh,
every single every format, because they'd have different banger B sides on different things. Um, when Infinite Sadness came out, I was there that morning with my mom at the store, ready to buy the album and stuff.
whoa.
It was huge to me.
Yeah, such a good band.
And it was
But
an
again, yeah,
album when you had to when I'd only have like 10 CDs or something.
uh-huh.
I'd sit with it for days, and then deep cut tracks after when it was like Simon's Dream. After you get into Today and Quiet and Geek USA, when I was like Soma and Rocket and Mayonnaise and all those big shoegaze via prog rock type of 8-minute tracks and stuff. Just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so
Definitely,
good.
definitely trained my brain for ambient music.
Uh,
Stuff like the opening of Soma with just that long guitar part just sounds like something on Le Bradford Fix content or something to me.
yeah, exactly. I like how you said train your brain for ambient music too, because there is there's something about ambient music that there's got to be the right way in when you're younger to realize that it's something that not only um it's not only important, but there's something about ambient music that, in my opinion, sometimes is the most important form of music because it's so minimal and it's so little in, most of the time in composition. But through that, it's able to convey and be so much and be so incredibly effective. But something does have to start training your brain how to tune into that and really pick up on what it is.
Yeah, I remember being in a cab with Warren Ellis when we were doing a screening of the Dirty Free documentary with him. And he was talking about Eno and Harold Budd, and I think he's talking about we were talking about this thing between good ambient and bad ambient, and
Mm-hmm.
that it's kind of easy to make ambient music on the surface, but when you get that deep listening that goes on with the real fucking goats like Basinski or Harold Budd or Taylor Dupree or any of the crank stars with lead, there's something much heavier and richer. And he just kind of had this thing like, I know good ambient when I hear it. I know good rich ambient that's
Yeah.
heavy, that's sparse, but very much
Yeah.
considered and not some like random dude with a pitchfork review who's just making this um minimal album. I don't know. Yeah, I've got a thing now about who are the real ambient minimal heads and the goats
Yeah.
and stuff, and not just the children of Sugar Ross and stuff who are just
Yeah. There's such a great divide between real depth and vibe, because so much stuff now is just vibe and it's just empty.
yeah, chill out music or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
background
Yeah.
music.
Just
Yeah,
like a fucking playlist kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I really go for that deep headphone listen type of structures in silence and kind of like Steve Roach and people like that. But I really,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, what was your gateway into like Cranky Records and Le Bradford and people like that?
Uh, the first La Bradford record I heard, I think, was Eluxo So, and that was through a buddy. A lot of those introductions, when it comes to music or any culture stuff, is all I surround myself with friends who are obsessed with so many different things. So I'm always getting these introductions into tons of different worlds.
My friend gave me a tape. First side was Godspeed You Black Empress first record. Second side was Eluxo and a couple of tracks from Stars of a Lid. And
Whoa.
fucked me up. I didn't know what was going on. I'd never heard anything like Godspeed, and this was kind of 99, 2000 birth of internet, and there was like no full names on the CD, one blurry photo, anarchists who live in Canada is all I know, no like promo photos and stuff, and it was one of my last true. I guess before as you get older, and you'd have to be a goddamn grown up and do shit. There's less time, I guess, to obsess, but college, university era is probably the
Uh,
last time that you can really. I found that I really just threw myself into such a big musical obsession like this, like
yeah,
buy
yeah.
everything, study the covers, stare at it, go to every gig, buy every offshoot band, and things like that. That was kind of the last one for me.
It's nice though when those things hit in a way that you don't really see coming. And sometimes the
Mm.
introduction can be something like you're watching a movie and a certain song comes in. You're like, what is
Yeah,
this song? And you look it up, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have to find this thing, and then you find it, and then you fall in love with the album, and then you have to and then it opens up that whole world of
yeah.
like previous discography or with movies, filmography, and you just keep going and going. I love when that happens when you're not trying to find an obsession. It finds you.
Yeah, yeah, that's the best. I still live for those. Even though
Uh,
they don't happen as hard and as heavy as before, but they're still pretty regular.
uh,
Or I don't even know what's happening, and my girlfriend's like, "You played that song 10 times," and I'm like, "Did I?"
yeah, yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, I hear it in the shower. I hear it when you walk around the house." I'm like, "Fuck, okay, it's happening,"
uh,
and that's
s-
good.
so it begins.
Yeah, here we go. It's kind of like that meme, like, "Oh, here goes." Was it that Grand Theft Auto meme where the guys went down the alley? He's like, "Oh shit, here we go," and
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
Yep.
just like that. I think Kaylee Malone was my last um obsession. That
God, so good. Oh yeah, because we were talking about that on Instagram. That's right.
I'm upset. Yeah, to the point where when I found out she was married to Stephen O'Malley, I got like jealous for a second. I was like, "Oh shit, that dude." that hasn't happened. And it's like, yeah,
Oh,
I was like, wow, I
that's
got.
so good. Have you
I'm
seen her
like,
live? I haven't seen
no,
her
I'm
live.
so pissed. She played in this. Another thing I do now is a sign I'm slipping. I get into them and I Google, and they played London in a really great venue 3 days before. I
Uh,
just met, or that's how it suddenly come on my radar that
yeah.
people are posting about it, but everyone was at the gig but me.
Uh, that sucks. Well, hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully
I've
soon, but she has to do all these. You need an organ wherever she plays. She's doing these amazing tours where it's just like old churches with archaic pipe organs
yeah.
and stuff is kind of her spec for doing stuff.
Yeah.
It's just
I
such a
can't
fun.
I can't get enough of the sacrificial code. That one that's been the one that I have gone back to so many times.
My other thing with her that I'm so obsessed with is there's these photos of her performing live where it's like Steven's at the organ playing and she's turned around facing the crowd and she's holding her hands up like this. And then I think it's like a durational, almost performance art kind of thing where she keeps, I think the hands go higher. So I think it's like a 50-minute kind of like they slowly time lapse rise up, which I think is just so incredible. And,
Really?
and the show ends with like, I've just seen various photos with the hands up, and I'm like, I think it's like some, yeah, like durational, almost Abramovich type of slow pace that she just kind of brings the hands up. It just looks so haunting and spiritual.
Uh,
I'm really compelled by it.
yeah. Yeah, I love music that has that spiritual almost religious. I not even almost, it is very religious. It's very like um there's so much of that realm in it without being in the confines of having it actually be traditional religious music.
Yeah, just some weird kind of transcendental element or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Like when
exactly.
I
Very
see, like
mystical.
one of the things I keep on talking about, I saw Sun in the White 2 album tour, and the whole place was smoked out, incense burning, absolute goated lineup. It was White House opening up as their support act, and then Russell Haswell was DJing, and then Sun had Peter from Mega Records with them, R&M Barchi, the ambient go, and Attila Chiha from Mayhem doing the throat
Wow.
vocals for the big track. And it was just, but it was like 120 decibels plus for the average volume.
Oh my God.
Um Aphex Twin was there, Chris Cunningham was there, and there I never forget that it was like two big pieces they performed. And Attila Chiha was doing this big throat vocal, and he was reading from what I found out later to be one of the oldest texts in known to humanity. And he's like singing this long text, but they like set off a riff, and then it would go through to whatever Peter Reberg's effects unit was, and he'd turn a dial, and it would be like this sonic boom would just shoot out at you. And it was so fucking punishing every time he hit it that anytime we saw him go to the dial, the crowd, half the crowd would be like, because they knew it was coming.
Whoa.
And it wasn't kind of like mugwai punching, it was so dense and rich, and we lost all track of time. We came out, we were completely disorientated. We all had to like have a 10-minute break and just have waters and stuff. It was crazy. I've been going to rock shows all my life. I know, I can deal with a gig, but we were
Uh-huh.
just like, this was something really transcendent and kind of a little bit painful and strange. And I was just
Yeah. I mean, it
completely
sounds like
obsessed.
the epitome of a mystical experience.
Yeah, and all your sense of time and whatever is going. Car alarms were fucking going off down the street because of the building was shaking. It was just the fucking best.
Wow. Did
It kind
you
of,
Have you gotten to meet Chris Cunningham?
No. Oh, yeah, yes. I met him at the event. I just said to him that kind of thing when you're in your 20s, you can try when you're kind of less kind of self-aware and completely fanboy. And I was like, hi, hi, hi. I love all your music videos. I think you're a genius. I love your work. And he was like, oh, thank you so much. And then I was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm working on a EP of short films, and they've never fucking come out.
Yeah, well, that adds up because I know he's been working on random stuff. I have friends that see him and know him and stuff, and I guess he's always working and things are always going through his brain, but he's in
He
this
can't
weird.
complete.
Why do you think that happens to some people, and how do you think that happens?
I don't know.
What's
Really
strange to me though, it's one thing if someone has always been like that where they can't finish something or they can't follow through.
true.
But when it starts off that someone is not only following through but consistently following through and then they lose it, that's pretty
Yeah,
baffling
that's
to me.
true. That's true. This
Because
guy was
with Cunningham, he there was so much consistent, not only consistent output, but to
game
such a
changers.
high
Yeah,
caliber. Like
like the
fucking change
port.
the game, everything.
Yeah, you still see it today. I saw it in the fucking new Alien movie. I was like, this is so Chris Cunningham coded.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, incredible. And then to go from that to just
Like
nothing when
all
I
is full
know
of
he's
love
still
and all the more genital stuff. Like all is full of love with the robots and the Portishead video where she's underwater, but it took out all the bubbles,
oh,
so it just
I
looks.
love that Portishead video.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't
Yeah, but
know. 'Cause I mean, from dropping bangers to nothing, or is it too tough an act to follow? Or
I think that's a lot of it. I think that's it is that people get into their own heads and then they psych themselves out and then time passes and it adds more invisible pressure to the
yeah,
scenario and then that postpones them even more, which adds more pressure. I think it's
yeah,
the classic thing of getting in your own way, you know. And as a kid,
absolutely.
when you're a kid, when you're 10 and you're drawing a picture or you're making some homemade movie with your friend, nothing is being overthought. You're just creating. And that's coming from that subconscious place where it's the ideas just bubble up and you're having fun and you're running in the forest and you're doing this thing. But then what happens is I think when a lot of people get older is you can maintain that for X amount of time and then you start getting into that you become too hyper aware of decisions and how you're perceived. Like you want to be perceived a certain way, so then that filters into what you start creating. And then the second that that happens, you start losing, it all starts unraveling because you're doing it for the wrong reasons and all the purity goes out the window. So then you have to find a way later on in life to get the fuck out of your own way again and access that place of how you were creating when you were 10 years old, when there was no idea of perception. It was it was just purity.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Or it's like I love when I see a career or a body of work from a filmmaker or band, and how they. I love seeing how they follow up a great album and what they do next. Do they pivot? Is it variation of the same thing, or do they go off to something completely different? But that in itself, you can completely get chewed up on. As how do I follow up?
Yeah.
Follow up on something, or like when Aphex Twin when he after when he did Drugs that double disc album.
Uh-huh.
Everyone was so excited, and then I don't know. It's kind of funny and humbling when his recent output hasn't. It's still been great, but he hasn't reinvented, electronic music again. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm also I think that whole idea and Radiohead is a testament to this too, that the whole idea of evolution or reinvention, to me, the most effective way of doing that doesn't mean you completely burn down the building and you build a new one,
yeah,
but rather you're adding onto these structures that you have. So, you know,
yes,
you've built these little worlds, and then rather than fucking burning it to the ground, you just keep adding to it and building to it. That is way more. That's way more of an exciting form of evolution to me, because I used to be way more in the school of, if I made an album, then I completely, next album I'd burn that other one to the ground and start a new one. But the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, I'm learning every single time I make an album, I'm learning all these lessons. And how stupid of me to abandon any lesson that I've learned rather than building on that lesson and learning new lessons in the meantime. And putting, I
That's
think
so true.
putting all those together, it often creates the most powerful and effective work. I hate to do this. I gotta balance. I gotta head to rehearsal. I
Oh,
just looked up and saw the time. I could talk with you for days.
yeah, this was a good one, man.
Thanks so much, buddy. This has been so great.
Oh, I've had such a great chat.
Talk soon, my friend. Thanks so much.
Take care.
All
Speak
right, later,
soon.
buddy.
Bye.
Boom! That was me and Trevor Powers, aka Youth Lagoon. Go check out his records, they are really beautiful. And that's it from me. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Joshua Eustace, aka Telephone Tel Aviv, for my beautiful music. Thanks to the Fat Possum team for hooking us up. And we'll speak soon.